guys, so we have a great game for you here. So in this game, I'm playing the Esau system with black, and I'm playing against a very good, strong opponent. It may not seem like it right now because he's like a 1400 right now, but when we first played these series of games, he was an 1800 player. So the purpose of these games was to learn how to play the in-game position. So we decided to play daily chess, where you have 1 day per move to make sure things. So we can really analyze the position. All right, so my opponent knows this. So the main purpose of these series of game is one of us will be playing the Esau, and we're trying to learn how to properly play the Esau, especially when it comes to the end games. All right, so he plays D4, which is a little bit unusual for him. He's not really I believe he's not really a D4 type of player, but he decided to go this route anyway. And I believe he's probably looking to play the London system, right? Because he really likes a particular player, Ginger GM, so Simon Williams, and I think Simon Williams like has a course on the London system, and I believe he probably has a course on like that. So other than that, I don't think I've really seen him play D4, but I know he has that course, or I believe he has that course. I'm not really 100% sure. All right, so I play my signature move is C6, and normally if someone play D4, you play C6, or if someone were to play E4, then you normally will play D6. All right, now in my case scenario, I don't give a damn what you play. I'm always gonna play C6. So substitution is better to start out with D6 versus C6, but I prefer this plain as EC6 all the time. So I'm always going to start with C6 if I'm going to play the Esau system. My preferred opening is the black line. That's actually my baby. I love the black line. But you know what? I really want to understand the Esau system because Esau is pretty interesting. It's a little bit different from the black line because I would say it's probably more of an attacking type of opening, while the black line is more of a defensive opening. However, it becomes an attack once you got all your things set up. But the Esau, you pretty much almost start attacking almost immediately, especially you playing for white. All right, so he played this weird move order with the London system. I forget the exact name of this. Like I think Jacob. It started with J. I forgot the exact name. I don't play D4 myself. I think D4 is a pretty boring type of opening, but you know what? I understand why strong players would play D4 because with D4, you get to control the type of opening you want to play. When you play E4, E-floor, black basically dictates the type of opening that you're going to play, right? They decide if you're going to play the French, the Sicilian, or they're going to play Caracan. There's so many things that they can do, but once you play D4, you really limit the choices that black has. All right, but in my case, I'm playing the Esau system, and then he plays the pretty much the bishop to F4, right? So I was a little bit taken back by this, but I knew he was going to do the London. Just the move order was a little bit different from what I'm used to in the London, and I play the move that you normally play in the Esau, which is the knight to D7, and I am threatening to thrust my pawn to E5. So that's what I'm really threatening. If I'm playing the black line, that's pretty much the move I'm going to do. He can try to defend against that by moving his knight in here, but that's what I'm threatening. Now, this opponent know I'm trying to play the Esau system, so instead of trying to prevent me from doing the pawn thrust, because in the Esau system, the E pawn normally stays in the home base. It doesn't really move. The E pawn never moves in the Esau system. So I was not going to do this move. That's not, even though I'm threatening to make this move, this is not what I would have played if I'm playing the Esau system. So in this case scenario, he plays this move right here, which is a little bit unusual. I thought he was going to move the rook. I mean, not the rook, but the knight in. But because he has some inside information, he already know that, hey, the main purpose of our game is to practice the Esau. He wasn't really worried about me doing this particular the pawn thrust. So he wasn't really worried about that. So that's why he just moved that pawn here. And so I do the next move, which you normally do in Esau, which is the a6. I'm preparing to thrust my other pawn. So that's the pawn, right? So when you play the Esau, the only pawn that makes it to the fifth rank is the G pawn. That's the only pawn that actually crosses that line. Pretty much all the pawns you see here stays there. There might be a few cases where you may thrust the A pawn, especially if they cast a queen side, or if you just want to harass some of the bishops. I'm not bishop, but some of the knights that they have over there. Then you may do that. But for the most part, the only pawn that actually hits the fifth rank is the G pawn. Right? So he knows what I'm trying to do, and he blunts it. And then from here, I was taken aback. I'm like, oh shit, what am I gonna do here? Because I want to play G, but I want to play G4. But if I were to just go ahead and play this, he can take here, and then if I take back, I'll be losing a bishop. I'm not bishop, but rook. For yeah, it wouldn't be good here because even if I try to go take the bishop back, he'll take my knight. Oh my God, this is bad. Horrible, 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 horrible. So he has me in a nice predicament, right? Because he knew what I was going to play. Most players would not play this way. So this is very different from what most players would normally play against you. Because most players don't even know what you're trying to play. Most people don't understand the opening that you play when you play the Esau system. All right, so in this case scenario, I literally had to change my opening. I had to say, you know what? I cannot play the Esau system because if I continue with the typical Esau system plan, he's gonna fuck me up. This is not gonna be good, and I don't want to sacrifice pawns yet. There is a way I could still play it and sacrifice pawns, and typically it's okay to sacrifice your pawn for in the Esau system, but I didn't want to sacrifice pawns where I gave him a open H file for his rook. I didn't want that. If I could sacrifice where I didn't give him an open H file for his rook, then I probably would have did that. But in this case, there I didn't want to go that route, so he forced my hand. Right? Remember, my main go-to opening is the black line. So you know what? He forced my hand. I didn't want to play the black line on you. I just wanted to play the Esau. But you know what? You did it. You dug your grave. So here we go. Bow. That's the move I normally threaten when I play the black line. So let's go. So I move my pawn to e5, and ideally this bishop would like to retreat all the way back here. However, he can't go there because if he do go there, then he will lose the pawn. So my queen is still attacking the pawn. So he retreats to G3. Still eyeing it. And at the same time, his rook is still protecting it, but the main defender action in this case is the bishop because the rook wants to do other things, but in this case scenario, they both defended that pawn. All right, so now my case scenario, I swing my queen over to the other side. Now the main purpose of swinging my queen to the other side is it's kind of twofold thing. One, I want to keep this knight pinned. I want to keep him pinned down, but I already anticipate his next move. His next move is he's going to move his knight over here, so attacking this pawn 2 more times. So therefore, it will be attacked by this pawn. It will be attacked by this bishop, and it will be attacked by this knight. So it will be attacked 3 times, and I guess it's defended 3 times as well. But I didn't want to defend it from here. So normally you probably defend it from this particular square. I didn't want to defend there because that's on the same diagonal of his bishop. So I wanted to defend that pawn. So my main goal is to defend this pawn right here. But I wanted to defend it indirectly. So the best way to indirectly is to actually move it to this place over here. And there's a serious move that he can do. He can find ways to kick me out, but it would take him like 2 moves to do that, to actually kick me out, and I'll be able to reinforce it other ways later on and stuff like that. But so that's the main purpose behind the move I made. The main purpose was not only to pin down his knight, but in reality, my main focus was to indirectly defend this pawn. All right, so he made the move that I predicted. And Nami from here, I typically don't make this move right here, but I say, you know what? Let's have some fun. Since you messed up my game, as far as the type of opening I want to play, now I'm gonna mess up your game, the type of opening you want to play. You want to play the Lunaticism? Fuck that. No, you're gonna play some other bullshit opening. You didn't want to give me what I wanted to play. You're not gonna get what you want to play, right? So this knight cannot take this pawn because it's pinned. So this knight backed up. So you're trying to attack this, and even though this thing is, the knights are pinned, but one knight can take it, right? Because even so, it will be still covering that diagonal. So I protected it one more time with the other pawn. All right, cool. So I did this right here, and then now from here, he does a unusual move, which is to, okay, he moves the this right here. So I guess he moved this pawn here to stop me from maybe trying to double his pawn. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't. I think he was worried, like he was seeing ghosts. It's something that you know what I mean happens sometimes. It happens to me all the time, where I may see ghosts, and he was seeing a threat that didn't exist. Because if he knew me, he would know that I value my bishops way more than my knights. In fact, I have this conversation with my brother all the time. 'Cause my brother loves his knights, but like my little brother, and I try to explain this to him in this way, where I tell him, hey, you know what? The reason why I think bishops are way more valuable than knights is because the way he looks at it is he treat his knights like assassins. And you're right, in a way they are, right? They jump around like ninja, like yeah, and they may get some crazy fork or maybe they get some attack and stuff like that. However, they usually not able to walk away from the situation. They may win a piece, but they're going to be captured, right? Because they're so short. They're short range pieces. However, my bishop are more like snipers, so I can basically shoot my opponents from the long range, and then I can still escape, and I can win that piece for free, and walk away from it. While usually a knight would have a hard time walking away after it capture a piece, after it wins some fork and stuff like that. And that's the reason why I value my bishop way more than my knights. Another reason why I value my bishop more than my knights is the end game. If you study the end game, especially when it comes to checkmates end games, you will understand that it is way easier to checkmate your opponent with 2 pairs of bishop than it is to checkmate your opponent with a bishop and a knight. Now, in my case scenario, I understand how you checkmate somebody with a bishop and a knight. However, it's a little bit long, and I have fun with it. It's not bad to do it that way, but it's just so much easier. Like most opponents do not know how to checkmate someone with a knight and bishop. You have to actually study that to actually really understand how it works, and most people don't put that time into it because it's a little bit tricky. And worst case scenario is if you're dealing with 2 knights. 2 knights cannot checkmate a king, not at all. In fact, the only time they can checkmate a king is if the opponent walks into the checkmate. So unless your opponent is actually helping you checkmate them, they're feeling very suicidal, then you can checkmate them. But in reality, 2 knights cannot checkmate a king. So that's why my order of preference is I'm always going to value my bishop pair. That's why bishop pair are so valuable, especially when it comes to the end game. Then from there, if I can't have my bishop pair, then I at least want to have a bishop and a knight. And then worst case scenario is if when you stuck with this two knights. Now there is a way to checkmate somebody with 2 knights as long as they have a pawn on the board, but that's really an advanced level skill. I haven't learned it. I'm still trying to learn it, but it's such a weird case scenario to counter. Even the grandmaster have a hard time doing those situations where they checkmate people with two knights, but they need to have two knights, and then the opponent need to have a pawn on the board. So this way, because knights can't really waste a tempo, so the pawn is kind of a way to gain tempos and stuff like that. Because um, most other pieces, chess pieces, can waste move, but knight can't waste move because of the way they move. They alternate colors and stuff like that. All right, but anyway, he didn't know me that well, so he thought I was going to do a move, but be honest, he was seeing ghosts because there's no way I'm going to trade a knight for a bishop unless there had to be something I'm gaining more than just the knight in that transaction, maybe an extra pawn or something like that. All right, so I move my pawn up here. All right, now the main reason I move my pawn up is I really want to reinforce this pawn over here on e5. I mean not e5, but e4. So ideally, I would really just want to just move my f pawn here. But if I were to do that, if I were to just move here, then he's going to get this annoying check, and I'm going to lose a pawn. I'll basically just lose a pawn. And the thing about so this is a very strong player, and he's a good player. And the thing about good players like this is that they are very very strong with their queen, super strong with their queen. In fact, I call these type of players subpar 2000 level player. And what I mean by that is that they're very good as long as they have the queen. And they look at their queen every single move. Every time it's their turn to make a move, they look at what move can I make with my queen? What move can I make with my queen? What move can I make with my queen? And as soon as I give him an opportunity, he's gonna jump on it. He's just gonna even if it's not really a good move, he's just gonna go and make the check. In this case, there is a good move, but these players, these subpar 2000 level players, they're they're gonna look for every opportunity to move their queen. So in this case, I didn't want to give it to him, so I did a preparation move first before I do that move, and then he moved his bishop up. Oh no, I'm sorry. Before he moved the bishop, he actually harassed my queen, and my queen retreat back to a home square, and then he moved his bishop in, and then I do a pretty strange move, which is knight to f6, which looks weird because remember I told you my main goal is I want to move my pawn to f4 so I can reinforce my e pawn, my pawn on e4. However, I decided to go for an in-between move because another thing you have to understand about players like this is that they're always looking for pawn break. They want to do a whole bunch of pawn break. They want to break up the pawn structure, which is kind of weird because they do these crazy pawn breaks, but then I don't think they really try to. They're not looking at the end game. They're looking to checkmate you. They're not even concerned about the end game. They're only concerned about the middle game, and they're going to end it. So even though some pawn breaks are great, in this case, this pawn break would be great because it'd be weakening that square. But a lot of times, these subpar 2000 level player, they're just going to try to find any pawn break they can do, no matter if it's good or bad. In this case, this would be a good pawn break. But I know he's going to make the pawn break. But before he made the pawn break, I want to get an in-between move. All right, so I move my knight up first. And then he moved his queen up there. So right now he's indicating to me that, hey, I am going to castle queenside. And I see that. And I don't want to really let him castle queenside. So I make this pawn move right here. Now, why I make this move? Well, this move is to harass his knight. Now I know that I'm not playing the e-shot, I'm playing the black line. Typically, you don't really you do this move sometime on the black line or the Philidor position. I mean the Philidor defense. But the main goal is that if he were to castle, then if I were to move my bishop up, I'll basically be kicking the knight back, right? If it were to move forward, then it'll basically lose a pawn in that transaction, right? So I'll win a free pawn. I don't think he wants that. Not against someone who studied in game. That'd be very, very bad because I will take advantage of that in game. Um, so his only option is to move back, and then once he moved back, his knight is out the game. Because what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to reinforce my A pawn by moving my B pawn up. And even if he would do a pawn thrust, like he try to break up that pawn, I can let him take it, and then I'll be still limiting his knight from getting back into the game. And if he don't move his pawn up, I'm gonna move my pawn up, and then I'm break up his queen side. So that was the main purpose of that move. Is to basically threaten them, say, hey, you know what? You want to cast a queen side? Okay, you can cast a queen side, but there's going to be orchestra waiting on you. Not only be orchestra waiting on you, but I'm going to make your pieces very inactive. So I'm going to make you play as if you lost a piece, even though I didn't win the knight. If you can make a piece has like inactive where it's like it's gone, it's kind of like you won the piece anyway. So if I were to force his knight back where it has no way of getting back into the game, where it's going to take maybe like 4 or 5 moves to get back into the game, in the essence, I won a piece. All right. So anyway, he didn't castle. He decided to go with the pawn break that I predicted, and this is where the in-between move I told you about. Remember, I moved my knight up on f6. I moved on f6 for a reason because, bam. Well, not yet. First, I harass a knight. I push him back. I want to make him inactive square, and then, bam. Now I attack his bishop. But I was planning on harassing his bishop from the get go, but I wanted to wait for the proper opportunity where um, this diagonal is blocked by this pawn, right? It's blocked by the pawn, so he can't really do anything yet. So I have this in between move where I can take his bishop right now. All right, so his bishop move out the way, still trying to protect this weak square. And then now I finally play my knight, not my knight, but my f4. All right, so he make the trade in the middle, and then he saw the opportunity to double my pawn, and then he went, ooh, oh my God, I can double his pawn. Oh my God, this is so great. But you know what? I don't give a fuck. I let him double my pawn because I'd be gladly willing to trade my knight for his bishop. I love my bishop. So yeah, if he wanted to make a trade for his bishop for my knight, have at it, boss. Go do it. I'm not gonna stop you. And another reason why this is bad, not only is it bad because remember I told you bishop, in my opinion, are worth more than the knight, but also if you look closely, you will notice that this is actually his good bishop. Because notice his pawn right here he has in the center of the board, they were on dark squares. So this bishop right here is bad. Is actually in the way of his pawns. However, the bishop he has here has open scope, right? It has a scope to go here. It has scope to go back here. It got, we don't have that much diagonal it can go to, but it can control quite a bit of squares. While this bishop don't really control that many squares. So he's basically trading his good bishop for a bad knight. My knight is in the rim, is on the rim of the board, and we know the saying, knight on the rim is dim. But you know what? He was salivating when he saw this opportunity, and he took it. All right, so he probably feeling happy with himself that he doubled my pawns. But you know what? I wasn't really worried about it. And he attacks it, and then I defend it. So I defend it with my knight, and then from here, I guess he's trying to, he probably looking to get his bishop here to, I guess, trade out my my knight, so this way he can really attack my pawn over here. And then now this is where I had to really think for a long period of time, and I had to figure out what would be my next best move. I had two candidate moves. Now, the move that really stick out to me was to move my bishop in here. So not only my bishop will be harassing his queen, but it will be protecting my weak pawn right here. So therefore, he has no way of actually taking that. And that looked like a good move, and that looked like the move that I was going to do. But then when I thought about it, I was like, you know what? This guy is a subpar 2000 level player, right? And what did these subpar 2000 players love doing? They love their queen. And I need a way to, preferably, I would love to trade off his queen. But if I cannot trade off his queen, then my secondary goal is to make his queen passive. So, how do you think I did that? How do you think I made his queen passive? Well, I decided to move my knight instead. What? How this knight? Right? Because the knight is attacking the queen. How is that making it passive? Well, the reason why this knight made this queen passive is that this knight is attacking his pawn on e3. So right now, this queen is the only protector of this particular pawn. And we know that a queen is worth 9 points, right? And a pawn is worth 1 point. So right now, in order to protect this pawn, he has to use a piece that's worth 9 points to protect a piece that's worth 1 point. Now, in my book, that is a win because I'm getting a valuable piece to waste time to protect a piece that's worth less than it. So right now, his queen can't move out the way because it has to protect this pawn. And he could protect it with his king. He could move his king up to protect it, but I don't think he wanted to do that yet because right now in his mind, he was thinking about, oh, I'm going to castle queen side, or I can castle. Well, he can't. Yeah, he can castle king side or queen side. So he was looking to castle and so forth. So he didn't want to. At this point in the game, he believed he would still be able to castle. But after my next move, I'm going to ruin all that. All right, no, after my next move. Well, you're going to see later on. All right, so now he tried to get his rook in the game. And I say, you know what? You're trying to get your rook in the game? No, 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 no. You're not going to get your rook in the game. Then I attack his weakness. So I attack that weak pawn. And I basically force him to go back. Now, remember, this guy is white. So as white, he has an extra tempo because he makes the first move. But I made him waste a move. I made him move the same piece twice. Not only did it move twice, but it moved back to where it started from. So now I'm up the tempo. Now, some people will come with this crazy analogy where they say a tempo is worth 3 pawns or some shit like that. I forget the exact saying. But I love it when I get my opponents to waste moves. So it may not seem that big of a deal now, but if I can make him waste a whole bunch of moves, it's really going to hurt him in the end game. Because a lot of time in the end game, it's always in a situation where you just one move too slow. It's like, man, if I had that one extra move, everything would have been okay. And you don't start noticing that until you get to the end game position. Now, sometimes you may waste your tempo. So right now, I have the tempo on him. And if he played the game right, he can probably try to neutralize that tempo I'm ahead of him. But I am not going to let go of the pressure. And then I hit him with this move. Bing. Right? Because I know right now he wants a castle. So I attack his pawn here. Now, I can give two shit about this pawn on b2. I don't really want it, to be honest with you. It might be poison. All I really want to do in this case there is I want to force him to make a decision. Now, in both his decisions that he's going to do to protect his pawn is going to affect his castling potential. So the only way he can probably still castle is he would have to move the pawn up, and then obviously I'm going to take, and I basically ruin his pawn structure, right? He could either take it with his knight here, or he can take it with the pawn. But regardless, I have an open file for my rook, and yeah, it's not going to really be good. It's he can try to castle here, but he's not going to feel comfortable. He's not going to feel comfortable. And then his other way is what he did is he actually moved the rook to protect it. And I was ecstatic when I saw this. Why would I be ecstatic right here? The reason why I was ecstatic here is because I forced him to commit a rook move, and by making him make this rook move commitment, it basically says, hey, you know what? Your dream of castling is bye bye. You can't castle no more, right? Because this rook already moved, and now this rook move, your king is stuck in the center. Now, this opponent is very good. He actually plays the black line, so he's comfortable playing, staying in the center. But I didn't want him to be he's okay playing the center. But I see many of his games. Most of his games, he normally casts the queenside. So I say majority of his game he casts the queenside, and he does like he attacks you, thrusting his pawn and doing a whole bunch of sacrificing. He's really good at this. But I wanted to put him in a situation where he's not as comfortable, right? He might be okay with the center, but I want to really put more pressure on him, right? So I got one of my missions out of the way, so now I know he's going to stay in the center. There's no way he can castle on the queen side the way he normally play most of his game. And if from here I can retreat my queen away, but I decided to keep my queen here for the time being, and then I castle. So now I'm the one that's castle, and he's the one that's still stuck on in the center. And I guess he felt the frustration, and he just go all out crazy by doing the pawn thrust. And I'm gonna take. I'm gonna ruin his pawn structure, and he takes back with the rook. And then after me here, I retreat back, and then I'm eyeing the weak square, the weak pawn that he has on the H file, and hopefully by now he regret his decision of doubling my pawn, because now he has this piece and this piece babysitting his pawn. Now I can admit I have my queen and my bishop babysitting that same pawn, but for a player like me, I do not mind having an inactive queen. But for a very strong player like this guy who loves to attack, it drives them nuts. It drives them crazy when their queen can't do anything. So I'm okay with inactive queen because I'm very comfortable with moving my other pieces. So I can move my other pieces and still get a nice attack. So I was totally okay with the position I had here. All right, so my opponent is really feeling the frustration, and he initiate a rook trade. Now in this case, Nero, I had two different decisions to make here. Either I take the pawn right away, or I trade. So those were my two candidate moves. Now I decided to actually make the trade. Why? Because if I were to allow him, so let's say for example I were to take this pawn, then he's going to make the trade. He'll get my queen. He'll force me to take back with my king, because my queen can't take, because if my queen take, then I'll be dropping a bishop. And then from here, players like this, remember the subpar 2011 player, they love moving their queen. If you give him any opportunity to move their queen, they're going to take it. So he's going to see a check, he's going to take it. And I didn't want to give him this check. But if he get the check, now he got his queen is no longer babysitting that pawn. And then and it can try to find some way in here, some way and stuff like that. Right now, I can't get in right now, but I just didn't want to give him any counter chances. No, there's no need for that. So I made the trade first. So I actually made trade the rook, and he did something I didn't really predict. I thought he was going to take with the queen, but he actually took with the knight with the king instead. But okay, whatever. That's cool with me. Oh, okay. Now I see why he didn't take with the key. Okay, now I see why. Because if you were to take here, remember his this pawn is still loose. Yes, his pawn is still there. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. So he couldn't do that right now. Yeah, he would have lost 2 pawns. All right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's the reason why he didn't take with the queen. So I don't even know why I didn't predicted that. So like I thought he was going to take with the queen because most of these players they always move their queen all the time. But remember this great move I made. It didn't seem like was that important previously. Actually, you can see the importance of it because I'm keeping his queen inactive. All right. So he takes with his king, and then now I take the pawn. All right, and instead of making the trade, he runs away like a little bitch. But all right, you know what they say. You play like a bitch, now you're gonna get fucked like one. All right. So I see what he want to do. What he wants to do for me here is he wants to kick my bishop out the way. So he want to do this move right here. So what I do here is I actually move my queen up here because his king is up here. So since his king is up there, um, I'm basically pinning down his bishop. So I'm preventing him from making this move because if he were to make that move, I can just take it, and he basically lost a pawn. Not only he lost a pawn, but he's gonna lose another pawn because I'm gonna trade off the bishop, and yeah, he's gonna be down a pawn and stuff like that. All right, so in this case, Nero, I pinned down the bishop, and then now he's trying to move the queen out of the way. Right, he's trying to get his knight into the game. So I'm assuming he's trying to move this knight in here to overprotect this thing. Now he would get this knight in here. So if he were to get this knight here, now he can actually um, threaten to move the pawn up because now the pawn will be protected by this knight. All right, so I play a little tricky move here. I infiltrate his position. All right, I'm eyeing his weakness he have here, making sure I'm pinning him down. Say, look, you remember this pawn? Yeah. Don't forget about this pawn. It's I'm going to go after it. And he sees that and he tried to counterattack me. And I still take that shit. I take that pawn anyway. Because he can't take it with this pawn with this bishop. So he takes it with not the queen because they don't want to lose the queen. Takes it with the knights. And then I take his bishop. So we basically traded bishop, but in the transaction I won a pawn. Now, right here, I already know I won the game because if I win a pawn against you, it's not good for you because I'm very good with my extra piece, with my extra pawn. So this is my second pawn I won. Yeah, I won 2 pawns here. It's game over for this guy. As far as me winning 2 pawns, if I win 1 pawn, that's not good for you. Maybe the best thing, if you know you're in game, you might be able to squeeze a draw, but you have to really study it. And now that he lost 2 pawns, oh my God, this, I, it was just I was just having a lot of fun here. It's just too much fun because his queen is not doing anything; it's just defending, and I know this is probably driving this guy nuts. All right, so I got this check, and I go for another check. So this is pretty. This is something that he would normally do. Keep on check, check, check. So notice my queen have all the fun. It's doing all the move. Right? Remember my queen was right here. Then it move here, and then it move over here, and move back here, then move here. It move here. It's like all over the board. While his queen only move here, and move here. It didn't have any square, right? So my queen have all the fun, while his queen is basically sitting back just defending. Now I don't have to defend the pawn no more. So I didn't like the fact that I took the pawn away from him because I wanted him to keep on defending that pawn. But it was a free pawn, so I just took it. So his queen can somehow get in here, but I'm going to make a trade pretty soon. All right, so he moved out the way here, and then I take the knight. And this move kind of surprised me, is that he said, please, please trade queen with me. Please trade queen with me. I'm not really too happy with my position. Just Just trade. And I just love it. I love it when my opponent beg me to trade queens with them. I just love it. It's just it brings joy to me when I see my opponents just beg me to actually trade queens. All right, so I say, you know what? I'm gonna trade with you, but before I do that, I'm gonna give you a little checkaroonie. So I check him first, and then I grab another pawn. All right. Now, he don't like the fact that he's down pawns. If he played a very crazy move, which take my pawn over here. Now, to be honest with you, at this point, I should have mentioned to you that I think right around here, everything from this point was all preconditioned. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, no, it was 6, 6. All right, so 6 moves, all preconditioned. Now, to be honest with you, I preconditioned more further than that. I think it was like 10 moves deep or 11 moves deep. And at this position, I didn't analyze the board. I didn't analyze. I would just keep on moving the pieces because I make a whole bunch of preconditioned moves. I don't expect my opponents to trigger every single of my preconditioned moves. And to be honest, he hasn't triggered every single one of them. This is one of the first line where he did, and I wasn't thinking closely. I wasn't paying attention. I was just playing along, just having fun, because it's like I was kind of toying with this guy because I learned a valuable lesson in this game is that I was toying around with him, but then he taught me something that even though I'm winning, it's not over into the fat lady thing. And I gave him counter chances. So he takes this pawn right here, and I predicted this move, and then I do a stupid move. Now, obviously, no, my main goal is to trade off the queen. I love queen trade. Queen trade, queen trade, queen trade. So if I were to play one move per day and it wasn't preconditioned, then obviously with the trade queens, trade, win my pawn back over here, and then now I got an open foul from my pass pawn over here. He can try to attack me over here, but then I can defend it. He can try to attack my rook here, and then now move down back here, and then it's pretty much game over for him because I can move my pawns up. I can move my queen up to escort those pawns. He has these weak pawn here. I have a weak pawn here, but he has no way to get around there to attack it yet. And he has to move. He basically have to move to try to stop these pass pawns. I can make these pass pawns are kind of bad, being that the fact that they're double on the rook foul and rook pawns are not really that great when it comes to in game. But in this case scenario, my king can easily get in the game. If he want to get his king in the game to stop it, I'm basically going to swallow up all these pawns. Right? These pawns are going to drop, and then now I have another pass pawn. I have another pass pawn. I have two pass pawns. I have this pass pawn here, and I have this pass pawn over here. I have these two pass pawns, so it was not going to be in that well with him because he has too many weaknesses to deal with. And remember, the main thing about ending games is creating multiple weaknesses, right? So if I can create two weaknesses, then it'll be too much. He'll be overwhelmed with these weaknesses, and his position will crumble. All right, so that's what I should have played, but like I mentioned, I was toying around with him, and you can say I kind of overestimated him. He's a great chess player, and I shouldn't have done that. And I'll allow him counterplay. So instead of making the move that I would have done if this was a one move per, if it was a one move per game, but I was playing fast because I was doing a whole bunch of precondition move. I was trying to get over the game and move on to my other games I had going on at the time. And I played this stupid move right here. Now this move is not bad all the way because the reason I made this move is because I realized his knight can't go anywhere. It's still stuck, and I'm threatening to win it for free. So I'm threatening to win it for free, and I can probably threaten some kind of checkmate, something like that. However, he saw through my mirage and moved his king out the way. Oh my God, this was a good move by him. As far as it's not really a good move where he's gonna win the game, but it's a good move for a player like himself who plays for tricks, right? So if this was a fast-paced game where if I was low on time, I would have made the stupid move of actually taking the knight, thinking it's for free, and then from here the game is a draw. As you can see on the meter, it's a draw because he would just take here. My best move from here is to check him here. He moved his king up, and then I'll check him one more time. And his only move he can do from here is to move the king out the way here. Because if he move his king in such a way where, back here where I can get a free check, then it would be checkmate. But he needs to make sure my rook doesn't have any squares where I can check him and get a move in for free. And then from here is a draw. All I can do here is just repeat. Right, he can't move the pawn up. He's just gonna have to just repeat. Cause if he moved the pawn up, he'll let my rook into the game, and it'll be game over. So he'll just keep on repeating. All right, so this guy was playing for trick. It's a very good trick on his end, but I didn't fall for that. I just calmly defended this pawn right here, and then I said, "What? What you doing now?" And then he goes for the check. He's playing for more tricks, right? Because as you can see by the thing, he's basically down 4 pawns. Even though I think he's down only 2 pawns, the score rated almost like negative 4 points evaluation on him. So he's playing for trick. So I move my king up. He plays another check, and here's what he's hoping. He's hoping I move my king either up here or up here, right? Because if I were to move my king up here, then he'll get a crazy fork on my king and my queen, and then I'll have no choice but to trade rooks for knights, and it's unclear as far as who's going to win here. To be honest with you, right now he's threatening like a checkmate. Yeah, it's not a checkmate. I can move up the board, but it's not going to be easy. It definitely would not be easy. He has ways of, yeah, it wouldn't be a good position for me. All right, so I didn't move my king up the board where I can get his knights a free check. I just calmly moved to the side. And he could check me one more time, but then from there I just moved closer to his rook. His rook needs to stay on the b file, because if my rook gets into this b file, then I can easily checkmate him. All right, but then at this point, my opponent gave up. Now, usually most people give up by resigning. They'll hit that resign button. But my opponent just timed himself out. So he timed himself out by just not making any moves. And to be honest with you, I don't really blame him, because he still have a knight here that is stuck, right? It is a loose knight. If he was trying to get his knight in here, I can harass the knight by moving my pawn up, and his best bet is to find a way to trade his knight for one of my pawns. But the problem with that is that now I still have another pawn to move up the board. He does have this pass pawn here, but this pass pawn can easy fall, with some kind of check, right? Because I can, if this knight were to disappear somehow, I don't know, let's just take it. Well, not just take it, but anyway, the thing is that I can easily, this pawn, if it would have advanced this far, I have checks where I can scoop the pawn up with this file right here, or I can there's many way I can scoop up that pawn. That pawn is not gonna go up down the board, even if you find a way to try to escort that pawn up the board. My pawns are more advanced, and I have more of them. So even if he try to sacrifice his knight for my pawn, I still have another pawn that I can actually use in this place. All right, so my opponent timed himself out. He basically gave up, but instead of giving up like a man and just resigning, he just timed himself up. And you know what? I don't blame him. A lot of crazy stuff was going on. I think around this time is when the coronavirus really did the shutdown. So I understand there's stuff going on at work, but to make himself feel better, he does give himself the excuse saying that, oh, I've been busy with military duties, But if you look at the games he's playing, he was playing many blitz game, many 3 minute game, many 1 minute games, doing this whole thing. He just, yeah, he just got tired. He just got fed up with his position. And I can remember even chatting with him, telling him how much I enjoyed his game. This was my funnest game I had with him because the main reason I was having a lot of fun with this game is because I put him in a position where his queen was doing nothing. So I put him in a position where he just couldn't do anything. Yeah, his queen could not do anything. And by putting him in a position where his queen couldn't do anything, it just is very frustrating for an attacking player.